1, 2, 3, 4, 5, Big Johnny G's my favorite.
What's up, nerds and nerdettes and wee little nerdlings all? It's your buddy Big Johnny G, the Two Gun Pixie presents Legendary Gaming.
Today, here on Two Gun Pixie, we're doing an episode of Big Johnny G's 5 Favorite. And today, that 5 favorite I'm talking about is my 5 favorite dice games. Not just a board game that you roll a die to move on. No, games where dice practically are the game. So which are my favorites? I'll see you down the table, and we'll talk about this. My number 5 favorite dice game. USAopoly presents Thanos Rising. Avengers Infinity War. Alright, let's be honest here. First and foremost, some amazingly iconic characters, well known the world over. It's hard to pass a game by when it uses such loved, well-known characters like Iron Man, Spider-Man, Black Widow, Captain Marvel, Hulk, Black Panther. I mean, come on. How could you not be attracted to a game like that to start with? And second of all, it's based on the Infinity War, one of the greatest grossing movies of all time. Now, these are well-loved characters in a well-loved universe and an extremely familiar storyline, one that you want to be a part of. This game utilizes concepts along the lines of dice building and deck building, because you're using the dice to secure heroes onto your side, as well as defeating the villains. But the heroes that you do accrue on your team are going to grant you and your team new special abilities, and in many cases, this involves dice manipulation, which is extremely important if you're going to beat Thanos. And that itself ties in with the deck building, because you want to go out onto the field and you want to try to recruit the best heroes that are going to optimize your team, ones that are going to give you new dice advantages, as well as being able to manipulate and change the dice. So it is at the same time, simultaneously, a dice builder and a deck builder. I also like this game because you can solo it. It's not my favorite style of soloing because you are going to have to use multiple characters, but still it allows you to solo it because this game is completely cooperative with open hands, and any game that's based on that can be soloed. It definitely has a great and fun solo mode. To add on to the dice manipulation, the game at certain conditions, especially when you free someone, when you recruit a hero onto your team, you get to blindly choose from a bag these chits, and many of them are what I call wild card dice chits. It's not what the game calls them, that's just what I call them, because essentially that's what they are. Some of these chits will act like a certain die roll. You need one more technology, you have that chit, you can use that in lieu of a die. So this itself is also adding on to the strategy, because you're not only trying to build up your dice, but now you're getting a chance to enhance them with these chits that you're going to be getting during the course of the entire game. Altogether, Thanos Rising, Avengers Infinity War is going to give you a lot of fun for a long time. This game is going to keep you involved. You are going to feel as the game ramps up. It's going to start a little easy, but every turn Thanos and his minions and his children are doing something, and that makes the game a slow boil, but it's worth it. My number 4 Favorite Dice Game by Gale Force 9, Doctor Who, Time of the Daleks. I've mentioned this before, and I will mention this every single time this game comes up in a conversation. Regeneration, a Doctor Who game that, in my opinion, finally gets regeneration right in a rules mechanic sort of way for a board game. When the Doctor you're playing dies, you literally regenerate to the next Doctor in order that you have available in the game. And there's enough expansions out that they have all the Doctors. Well, they don't have the War Doctor, they don't have Jodie Whittaker yet. I'm assuming that those two will be the next expansion for it, but I haven't heard or actually looked into it officially. Check that out yourself. But all the Doctors are there. If you have the expansions, then you can literally start with William Hartnell, the original Doctor, and you can move through the entire line. You don't die. The Doctor doesn't die. You regenerate because the Doctor regenerates. I love that this game got that right. Instead of using art, drawings, or something for the cards, they lifted actual production cells. Or at least it looks like they lifted the actual production cells because the pictures are that crisp. They are literally torn from the television show, from the original serialized version of the show to the modern day show. Villains, stories, encounters, challenges, they're all there. They're all taken, and some perfectly matched pictures for that particular story are literally on the cards, as well as the player boards for which Doctor that you're playing. Through the use of your companions in this game, which will grow, you're not limited to just the traditional companions for each Doctor. They will grow, and you'll get a chance to have many companions that maybe John Pertwee's third Doctor didn't have. And that's okay, because this does involve time travel, right? So the use of the companions will help you manipulate the dice and will give you extra dice that you're going to need to roll to overcome a lot of these challenges in the ongoing story. Another beautiful aspect, a callback to the spirit of the Doctor Who show itself, and my personal favorite of any Doctor Who episodes, regardless of who the Doctor is a multi-Doctor story. The first time I ever saw the 3 Doctors, I was hooked on that concept. The 5 Doctors was amazing. The 2 Doctors was amazing. I love whenever Doctors meet. And this game, that's where the semi-cooperative comes in this game. You are all playing a separate Doctor. The first Doctor, the 9th Doctor, the 4th Doctor, the 12th Doctor, whoever, you're playing different Doctors. But you can ask for help. You can call to a past incarnation of yourself, and you can get assistance. Just like in these special episodes where they meet. And those are always my favorite episodes. And to be able to have that concept in the game, so you're not literally working with each other or the other Doctors from the beginning to the end. You're all on the same mission, but you're not necessarily working cooperatively in space together. But you can ask for that help. And that really does harken back to classic multi-Doctor stories. If you're a Doctor Who fan, I still maintain that thematically, this is the best game to make you feel like you're the Doctor. My number 3 favorite dice game from Wizard of the Coast, Dungeons & Dragons Infighting. I can't tell you how much I can't get enough of this game. I could play this game with any group of people, any day of the week. I just love the game that much. Why? I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that it's a bar fight in D&D. What a simple concept, and they happen. I've DM'd and played games, of course, where there's tavern brawls. But to make a game based on that singular sort of minutia incident that happens during the course of an adventure would never have occurred to me. And they pull it off magnificently. To start with, the characters are all fun. No matter who you're playing, you're going to have fun with the character. And they range from the familiars, dwarven warriors and elves, but there's also the more exotic. such as being able to play a beholder in the middle of this bar fight. Now, this game does utilize some cards, as well as the main mechanism, which is the dice. And these cards fall into really having two different categories of being an action card that will allow you to do something extra in your action, maybe more damage or attack another person, something to do with the combat. The other cards are what are commonly called at the table the meat shields. The game calls them bystanders because that's exactly what they are. Just as in any bar fight, whether you've been in a real life one or you've seen one produced by Hollywood, just like in those, there are people that are not involved in the fight, but they're standing right there and they're gonna get hit, they're gonna get smacked, they're gonna get cut, they're gonna get bruised, they are part of it. And this game utilizes bystander cards, and they will act kind of like your meat shields. Then, in many cases, if you have one up, they're going to take the damage first. Well, if it's a punch or a chair, not if it's a special attack. And that special attack brings us to the dice itself. The mechanism that the dice game uses for this is symbols of chairs and fists as far as the combat goes, as well as a lightning bolt. And these dictate whether you can hit someone on one side of you or someone on the other side of you, or if you have your special ability, you can pick and choose who you're attacking, which is how you can get by the meat shields if someone has one next to them. And this aspect of combining that, I found to be seamless, and I really enjoy the way it works. Overall, this is a beautifully simple game to learn. It's a fast game to play, easy to teach. You can get this down to the table and you can play this in a matter of moments. It's going to take you 30 minutes or less to get through one session of this game. And to me, although admittingly, right up front, there is no hidden role aspect to the game, other than that, this game kind of feels to me a little bit like Bang Dungeons and Dragons. Again, without the hidden role, hidden traitor aspect to the game, but the way it plays out, there are similarities enough that makes me think that. And I like that. I find that enjoyable. So if you're looking for a different D&D style game, especially something that can act as a filler game before your main campaign starts, Dungeons & Dragons Infighting is a fun way to get you ready for the big epic campaign. My number 2 favorite dice game from Renegade Game Studios comes Lucidity 6-Sided Nightmare. And as I've mentioned with this game in the past, one of the main things I love about this game is how it plays differently, whether you're doing solo or whether you're doing competitive. The rules are different, the aspects of what you're doing are different, as well as the goals. It literally feels like 2 games in one. But hold on, I'm going to jump ahead, something I was going to say later, but I'm going to throw this in right now because of what I just said. Not only does it feel like 2 games in one, but there's an aspect to the competitive game where a player, or multiple players, could succumb to the evil nightmares of the game and become a nightmare themselves. And then they are playing a different rule set game than the other players that aren't nightmares yet. So in a way, yeah, this is almost like 3 different games in one in a sense, and every single aspect of it all falls into place perfectly. Now, being a horror game, you have to think about the artwork. I love artwork in a game. The right artwork definitely helps pull you in and adds to your level of a suspension of disbelief. So, looking at this artwork for this horror game based on nightmares is horrifically beautiful. Now, although this game isn't a story-driven game, there is a sense of story to it that I've always taken from the game. This sense of you, the dreamer, delving into the dream world to try to steal this arcane power from the dream source or whatever it is, does indeed tell a story while you're playing the game. It's not advertised as a story game. It's not ruled as a story game. But between the lines of playing the game, you definitely get a feel of the story of your particular Dreamanaut and the other players' Dreamanauts. There's an ongoing story, especially how you can manipulate each other to a certain degree, depending on how a certain die roll or two might happen. But especially, hugely so, when one of those Dreamanauts becomes a Nightmare-naut. Okay, that one doesn't work, but you get the idea, you know where I'm going with this, and I'm sure if you've played the game, you understand completely what I mean by that. This game not only is perfectly fun for a Halloween kind of theme or the October month, really, I find this game to be perfect anytime you put it down. Just the way it evolves, the way the game is played, whether it's a solo game, whether it's a competitive game, and even if half the players turn into nightmares. Every single aspect of this game is fun. If you're looking for a great little dice placement game, you check this game out. Just check out Nightmare. A Lucidity 6-sided Nightmare. Check that out. My number one favorite dice game by Thunderwork Games. Role Player. Yeah, I'm still amazed at how I let this game pass me by. I remember it on Kickstarter. I remember seeing people talking about it on Facebook and Twitter. I also remember thinking to myself, who the hell is going to waste their time playing a game based on just making a D&D character? I got the books, I'll just make a D&D character. Then after the Kickstarter was over, I started seeing some videos, some playthrough videos, and I was hooked. And I got the game, and I found out I didn't just feel like I was hooked, I found out I was hooked on this game. So, questioning it from the beginning has definitely taught me a lesson, and I look deeper into Kickstarter games now before I dismiss or approve of them. The rules to this game I find to be not only easy, but I want to say that they are perfectly paired with the concept of this game. And that is, I think, the first time I may have actually even said that in any video showcase about a game. Yes, I feel that these rules are perfectly paired with the concept behind the game of character generation. The rules are easy, they're light, there's a lot of them in a sense, but they're so organic. It makes the game feel natural. The biggest part of this game, strategy-wise, I think, and I believe anyone that's played this game would agree with me on this, is the strategic use of dice placement and manipulation. That is everything in this game. That is how you're going to win or lose this game. You have other factors that tie in, like your equipment or the skills that you gain during the course of the game, how your alignment has ended by the closing of the game. All these things, yes, they're going to give you points, but you're not going to win this game if you're not strategic and careful in how you place and manipulate the dice, because where you place them in your stat grid will give you a bonus ability right then and there that you can do, such as you can flip a die to the opposite side. You have a die that says a 2, well, now it says a 5. You can manipulate the marketplace. You can do so many things. You can switch actual places. I'll take a die for my strength and put this die here in the lowest open spot in my dexterity. This is what I mean. The dice placement will affect the dice manipulation. So you have to think of this on 2 levels at the same time. The strategy level in this game, I did not imagine at first, but it is exactly that drew me into the game and continues pulling me back. Thunderworks is no stranger to giving the fans of their games, particularly this game, what they want. And that, from the very beginning, has been expansions. Not just to expand upon the types of player races that you can choose as your base character to build up with the dice, such as an elf, a dwarf, a dark elf, a frogkin, a cat creature, whatever else they have now. I forgot all the different races. They have so many of them available. But they already have one expansion out, and the second is about ready to deliver to the backers in very shortly, or just did by the time this video is dropped. And They add to the game by advancing the game. Monsters and Minions, the first one, does exactly that. It adds monsters to the game. It adds a challenge aspect where you can go out and hunt and battle monsters and ultimately their boss who are ravishing the lands. It takes the fact that you are building a character and actually gives it a game to be in. Which is funny because the first time I played it, that was my initial thought at the end of the game. My God, why can't we take these characters on an adventure now? And they gave it to us. And the new one that just dropped, Fiends and Familiars, now adds more of that, plus adding in different, familiars that you can get to accompany you on your quests, on your adventures. And this game is so popular and does so well on Kickstarter, although I have heard nothing official, there is no doubt in my mind that they already have more for Role Player Plan. Not some of the secondary games like Cartography that they have that takes place in this world, but actual expansion-style sequels or standalone boxes specifically for Role Player itself. But beyond that, it makes me think of old TSR days. It does. In the sense that when Dungeons & Dragons became popular, TSR decided to bank that popularity of role-playing games. And although they used different rule systems at the times, they basically just reskinned D&D. They altered combat rules, weapon rules here and there, but it was essentially a reskin when they made Boot Hill about the Old West, or Gangbusters, the roaring 1920s gangster role-playing game. Top Secret, Cold War espionage, Star Frontiers, high sci-fi. Gamma World was the post-apocalyptic game. Oriental Adventures was their Asian-based fantasy game. They expanded upon that, and I see the same possibility here. I see a standalone role-player game based on a sci-fi. I think that's the next easiest, most logical thing to do, but there's so many others that can be done. You can do a post-apocalyptic mutant Gamma World style game. That would be perfect. That would be awesome. I could also see them very easily doing, yes, I add this to everything, a superhero version of this game. Though the character boards might be a little bit different. You're not dealing with just elf and dwarf, but I'm not getting into how they could work that right now. It's just something that I could possibly see happening. Even a Cthulhu version of Role Player, maybe we are building cultists instead of investigators. The possibilities for the reskinning of this are endless. It's just a matter of how well they make them, how they change the rules enough to make it interesting beyond the reskinning. But it can totally happen. And that's another reason I love this game, the possibilities that it's leaving me. But overall, I could never have imagined a character creation board game being this fun. Please, even if you don't rush out to just buy it based on what I say, check it out. Go find some videos on it. Take it, like I always say, if it's at a board game cafe, or maybe your local game store runs game days sometimes, check this game out, because if you're a fantasy fan, especially an old school D&D fan, I think you're really going to like Role Player.